Hi folks, Jason here. In this tutorial I'm going to be going through how I created this asset. So essentially I was just taking my dogs for a walk and I came across this. I'm not sure if it's an electrical unit or it's to do with telephone wires or something like that, and I thought, oh, that'd be really good to kind of model and even put into a kind of game engine and just have it like a sort of a game asset. It's fairly functional, and someone sort of sprayed some graffiti on it and stuff like that. So I've created a little kind of presentation, and I was just going to show you a little bit of an intro into kind of what I did, and then follow up with an actual workshop where I'll take you through the process of taking a photograph and essentially modeling from it. So as you can see here, I've got the initial page, which has got like the renders of the model that I created. These are just some of the items that we're going to be exploring for the workshop. And there's a link to the video as well, and I'll just play this for you now. So I'm not sure if you can hear the audio, but essentially this was it.
Okay, this is just a short recording of the object that I'm looking to create for the modeling. Okay, so there we go. You can see its entirety.
Okay, so that's the actual unit. And essentially what I did was, it wasn't like very pretty. I took the image, I put it into Photoshop, but I did have to sort of tidy it up a little bit because I wasn't able to kind of get a sort of full-on shot of it. It was a bit, it was a bit hit and miss. I was just sort of taking the dogs for a walk. So I used the warp tool and used the distortion as well, just to kind of make it as straight as I could, and did the sides as well. It actually worked out pretty well, all things considered. And then I just dragged a bit of wood texture, and that will be for the telegraph pole that it was attached to as well. So you can see here, this is basically just some screen grabs of the model itself in the process. And this is where I was kind of laying the UVs over and sort of creating the islands to kind of go over the photos. And this is pretty much the finished product. Now I did take the liberty also of just applying a bump to it as well, which I thought worked really well. So this is without the bump, and these are just some screenshots like before. If I go through to the actual file now, through to Blender, and I'll just bring this up, and I'll just give you the lit version. The effects are really good. I mean, all things considered. Like I say, I put, if you just go through to the shading there, let's go through to the, there we go. So you've got the materials, and you've got the actual texture there, and then linked up to the principal shader there, and then there's I connected up the image again, but this time put a bump on it, and it just worked out really well. It kind of looks like old paint, and like I say, the graffiti has actually got a bit of a bump on it as well, so that works out quite nice. And then you kind of got these bits of text here and stuff, whatever, little bits of signage. And then there's the pole as well. And I just kind of, again, this is all done, probably took me about an hour or so, about an hour to do, but as a sort of game asset, this could work really well. And there's a multitude of things you could do with it. You could even, I don't know, depending on what you're kind of going for, whether you're going for sort of like a realistic scene, or you could even do something else with it. I mean, it's pretty sort of limitless as to what you could try with this. You could even, create buildings from it. I mean, who knows? I mean, I don't know. You could sort of pile them all up, or put them into an, create an entire environment just from this one thing. So it's yeah, it's quite sort of versatile. But like I say, with the finish, and this is without even taking it into Substance Paint or even messing around with the paint in here. So anyway, so in the next part, I'm going to be basically going through the basics of how I created this. So that's just the intro. Anyway, that's it. I'll see you in the next section, folks. Okay, so without further ado, let's get going. So I'm going to start off by creating a new project. So I'm going to close this one down to make sure always to save. So I'm just going to go and save this just in case. Then I'm going to go through to File and New and General. Okay, so we've got the standard layout there. Now, I don't actually need any of this for the time being, so I'm just going to get rid of it. Hit delete. Now I'm going to bring on some reference images. So I'm going to go to File and I'm going to go to Import. Now you'll see here it's not actually set up at the moment. We need images as planes. So in order to bring those up, I'm going to go back through to Edit and Preferences, and then where you got Add-ons, I'm going to go and click on that. And then in the top here, I'm going to type in the word image. You'll see that it says Import, Export, Import images as planes. Just make sure that that is ticked. And that's it. That's all you need to do. So then when we go back to File and Import, you'll see there it's images as planes at the bottom. Now what we're going to go and find is, if I go to Desktop, I want to go and find my folder there. And it's actually, if I just go to the images there, ideally what I want is I've got my edited version there. I just want to bring the sort of raw version just so I've got a sense of place, and also I've got some side views there as well. So I'm going to go and import that there, and I'm just going to go and scale that up. Let's just turn on the so we can get the image going on there. You can see it. There we go. And I'm just going to flip this. So again, just going to rotate that. Just do it by hand. Let's go and rotate that again. Sorry, go rotate it like so. Okay, so we've got our image. Now, one thing you might want to do, it might bother you, it might not do, is it's kind of like transparent, so you can kind of see through it. I want it to be solid, so I'm going to go through to the Materials tab. If I go down to the bottom there, and if I scroll all the way down to where it says Blend Mode, I'm going to change that from Alpha Blender to Alpha Clip. You see there now, it'll actually solidify it. Okay, and now just zoom out a little bit, just rotate that like so. It doesn't have to be perfect, but that looks okay to me. All right, that'll do. So we've got that there, and I'm going to bring up the side view now as well. So again, same as before, File, Import, and Import Images as Planes. Go to our folder, click on that. Now I can bring in both of these sides. I'm just going to bring one in for now. I've already got my reference on the other side. Again, it's just mainly for just doing the basic modeling, the sort of scaling for it. So I think it's probably hiding down there, isn't it? Okay, so I'm going to go and scale this up. And what I'm going to do is, this might be a little bit fiddly. I'm just going to, well, first of all, I'm just going to go down to the materials to make sure that Alpha Clip's turned on. And I'm going to go and rotate that. And again, I'm just going to sight this by eye. What I'm going to attempt to do is just get it roughly the same size as the other. So I'm going to do that by just having a look. Again, you can use these tools if it's more helpful. Just going to have a look at, say, at the side there. Okay, that seems to be kind of going somewhere to the top. Again, we can sort of scale this down a wee bit using the outer edge. So something like that. And maybe you can go back to the arrow. So again, I just wanted to kind of line generally up with the top here and the bottom. It probably just needs scaling down just a wee bit more. Just go move it up. Again, I'm just using this as a guide. That's kind of roughly there. That'll do. And then I'm just going to move this to the side like that. So again, it's just a reference as much as anything else. So we've kind of got that kind of set up there. Now I'm going to start the modeling process. So I'm going to start off with bringing in a cube. So I'm going to go Shift and A and Mesh and Cube. And also I probably want to just move this, not that it's crucial, but I want to just kind of get it roughly in the center, like so. Now if it's helpful for you, and it may be at this stage quite helpful, if you want to kind of like model from that. This is a slight angle, so you know it's not entirely you know, in proportion. But in order to kind of like see behind the cube, if I use the X-ray key there and say click on, say that, or click on this, if it lets me, or even indeed go into wireframe mode, the image will disappear, right? I think it's just a bit laggy. So if I just go back into the view mode there, what I can do is I can make this more like wireframe, just so I can actually see what I'm doing. So in order to do that, you'll need to go to the object properties, scroll down to viewport display, and then where it says display as, instead of textured, I want it as wire. Now you can flip back and forth, you can keep that open. I want to be able to manipulate these corners as well. So I'm going to go to press edit mode, and also it might be an idea just to kind of go, depending how you kind of want to do this. I'm going to go click on that. Now you can see there on this occasion it's kind of selected them both. I think it's because I'm in wireframe mode. Just make sure that both of these are selected, by the way, because otherwise you'll just end up just getting one of the sides. So with both of those selected, you can just hit G and just bring that up to the top like that, and then just do the same with the rest, like so. So again, I'm just in orthographic view. And then same with that. Hit G, bring that down. Now that's a little bit off there on the photograph, so I'm not going to get too pedantic about it, but I just want to make sure that it's kind of, it's not too skewed. So again, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to warp this image. When we get into doing the UVs, I'm going to warp this image to this. So I'm going to make sure that this is actually in line. I may even indeed just go back to object mode, and I can hit H for hide, just sort of take that away for now and just go and click on that. We can bring that back by pressing Alt and H, by the way, and I'll go into that in a minute. Hit the tab key again. So yeah, so I'm just very mindful about making sure that this is fairly kind of straight. So again, it's going to hit G and just kind of move that to there. And again, you can also use these move tools as well if you want to kind of be a little bit more kind of precise. Okay, so something like that. Okay, and then we can just come out of that and go back into the solid mode again with that. And yeah, so Alt and H will actually bring the image back, or it should do anyway. Let's come out of that a second, go back into tab mode, Alt and H, there we go. So we are sort of pretty much tickety-boo with that. We've got, if I just go and select our little unit there. So that's set up that way. Now let's have a look at the side. So the side, again, I might just move this forward a wee bit. We're going to need to kind of narrow this down. So if I just go and select this now, and I'll move that into view. And again, similar to the front view, it's just going to take a little bit of maneuvering, because this is a kind of, in fact, what I might do is just kind of get that so it's kind of fairly perpendicular. Okay, so we've got something like that. And then what I'm going to do is, again, use the scale tool and just scale that down so it's kind of roughly around about that size. And that's all looking fine and dandy. I may indeed bring this in a little bit more, actually, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to sort of, well, you'll see anyway. I'm going to use the inset tool, bring that in, and then sort of extrude out from there. So I'm going to go back into edit mode, and in fact, no, let's go into scale mode first and just scale that down. So basically, it's the width of the little rim there, like so. So something like that. Okay. So we should have something that kind of looks a bit like a sort of like just a tablet. Right, so what we're going to do next is I'm going to come out of the wireframe mode just temporarily, and I'm going to hit the tab key, go into edit mode, and you see the keys up here. We've got the vertex, also got edge, and we've got face. You can actually go between these by hitting 1, 2, or 3. So that'll give you different views, or you can just click on these tabs. So I'm going to select the face on this occasion. So if I just go back into object mode, select that, go into edit mode, and go and select the face if it lets me. Let's just try that again. Okay, so with the face selected, what I'm going to do next is I'm going to hit I and just scale that down a wee bit because I'm going to adjust this. So don't click off it, just kind of keep it live, as it were. And what we're going to do is we're just going to make sure that it's pretty much equidistant. It kind of looks all right, actually, the way that it's been scaled down. So basically we're creating like this inset. And then what we're going to do from there is we're going to extrude from there. So I'm just going to go into the orthographic view, so looking on the right hand side. And then in order to kind of make sure this kind of goes forward, I'm going to hit E and then Y and just bring this out to around about, say, there. Okay, so we've got something like that going on, but we need to taper it at the top. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go back in the object properties. I'm going to go back into the wireframe mode and hit 1. And then I'm going to go and select all of those and hit G. And then bring that down to, say, around about there. Now I might actually bring that down as well. And then just kind of like adjust it accordingly. So I'm going to maybe perhaps just bring these up a wee bit. And I might even just do a bit on there, hold down shift and select that, and then just bring that down. Oops, looks like it's not got it all. Let's try that again. Let's try go into X-ray mode. Let's try that. So backspace, go that again, and then bring it. There we go. So yeah, it'll help to be in X-ray mode when you're doing this. Then bring that down to there, like so. Now, if I just flip round to that side there. Again, it's not going to totally line up with that picture there, but it's an approximation. So I'll be happy to perhaps go with that. I know I've brought that down, but I think that's pretty much good to go. I think that's all right. It doesn't have to be perfect at the top. You can, if you want, bring that down a wee bit, perhaps. Let's have a look. So it brings it down a little bit more. It's entirely up to you. It's a judgment call. But I think on this occasion, I'll probably keep it as is. So basically what we've got is the approximate shape. Yeah. So if you've got there, that's all fine and dandy. And I'm going to go back to the textured mode now. So if I go hit tab and just go into the object mode. So basically now what we've got is the approximate shape. So that is great. So we're basically ready now to start laying on the materials and also playing around with the UV. So that's the next step. Okay, so now we're at that next step. What we're going to need to do is we're going to need to assign our amended document to this. So the if you recall from the little intro, I've got an image which I've played around with in Photoshop from there. I've also got the side view and the other view. And we're going to apply that to the entire model, because what we're going to use is smart UVs to align all the faces to those. Yeah, so it'll make more sense when we do it. So what we're going to do here is, in object mode, I'm going to go through to the materials tab here. I'm going to click new. It'll create a new material. And then where it says base color, if you can see that, let's bring that out a wee bit. where it says base color with the yellow dot, I want you to click on the yellow dot, and then we're going to attach an image texture. And then as you do that, you'll see there we've got new and then open. I want you to click on open, and then we'll go and find our file, so material game asset, and this is the one that we want here. Yeah, I'll make all these available for you in the with the video. Click on that, and then click open, and then probably what you'll see is something random like this. Yeah, so it's not been assigned to anything, so it's pretty much everywhere. It's a hot mess. So what we're going to do is we're going to start the process of, essentially, it's a bit like a jigsaw puzzle. We're going to start assigning these faces. So if I just go into the edit mode now and say go into faces. So all of these are going to be, come out of X-ray mode. All of these faces are going to basically be laid over those images. So it all makes sense. Now it can be a little bit hit and miss. So when you will find this out when you kind of do it, once you've kind of put the image on there and you do an unwrap, it might be good to kind of do it once or twice. But for example, if I go and hit U and Smart UV unwrap again, what you want to be looking for, if I just bring this over, is any blurring. So I could say, for example, take this, just isolate that one, and this could look okay. So I could sort of take that, move it over, and that looks in proportion. That's all looking all right. However, if I go to the side and say go and select that, you may see it blurring. And on this occasion, it all kind of looks fine. So it's just something to bear in mind. If you'd start mapping this out and it starts looking blurred, right, then there's a good chance that actually there's something's gone on. And one of the things you can also do, just as a side note, if I just go back and hit the tab key and go back to object mode, is you can press Control A and go scale. That can help as well. So this is just what I found in my adventures in Blender. So I'm going to hit A. So let's just do it again. U and then Smart UV unwrap and then click OK. And there we go. We've got our little scenes. So you want to be looking for any kind of blurring going on. Right. So let's start off with the first bit here, and we've got the front. Now you want to be making sure that as you bring it over, if I hit G, you want to make sure it's the right way around to start off with. So you can see there, it's actually upside down. So I'm just going to go and hit R and just rotate that. That should be looking fine there. And then basically what you can do is just select each corner, hit G, and just basically bring it into place, like so. And one to there, and then one to there. Now you can finesse it, so you can see here I'm a little bit off there. You can sort of finesse this by, sort of tweaking it and do it, working around that way and just making sure that everything's kind of pretty much lined up. You don't want any of the background in there, but that's kind of looking all right. Again, you can always kind of tweak it here and there. So that's looking all right. And then we're going to move to the side view. So I'm going to go and click on that. You can see there, again, it looks to be upside down again. So I'm going to go and hit rotate and bring that around. Now I actually want this to be on that side because this is on the left-hand side. So what I'm going to do is hit G and then bring that over. And then basically do the same thing again, just kind of pull that into place. Hit G. And then over there. And that should be looking something like, so you can see there, if I zoom in, there's that little kind of like bit of oxidization going on there, and that's also going on there as well, you can see. So that's all looking tickety-boo. And let's have a look on the other side. So if I just zoom out and go into the other side now and click on that, this needs to be on that side. So again, it looks to be actually the right way up. So let's just go and select that, or select A and then G, and then move that up. And then all we need to do really from here is, again, hit G, select one of the vertexes, and then just move it in accordingly, like so. So something like that. And again, you can sort of finesse it by sort of tweaking some of these things around, but that's kind of pretty much looking all right, really. Now we've got the sides, and now I didn't get a shot of the back, so you could just essentially take the back there, so you can see that there, move it on more onto a kind of blank piece there, because I'm not really going to go and see it. So I'm going to hit G And again, perhaps just S, scale that down, and then maybe just highlight some of those, bring it in to say there. Obviously, you want to look out for things like stretching and scaling as well, but given that we're not really going to be seeing much of the back, that's kind of looking all right. You could also alternatively put it on the other side if you wanted to. It's a bit more interesting. You know, hit G and then move it over to there. Maybe just sort of scale that down a wee bit. It's entirely your choice what you do there. But yeah, so something like that could be all right. That could potentially even link in with the side. Similar thing with the top. So go to there, and again, just hit A, and then just move that over to wherever you want, you know, wherever you might want to put it, maybe there, something like that. So those are the sides done. You've got the underneath, of course, do the same thing with that. Go and select that. Let's just move that over, hit A and then G, and then move it over, so maybe a bit more grimier at the bottom. And then we've got the issue of the sides. Now the sides, again, I didn't get well, I've got a photograph of the side there, so we can sort of certainly take care of that. So I could take that side there, for example, and hit A and G. But there's other parts on the underside which we're probably going to have to kind of use elements of the texture as well, just to play around with that. But I'm just going to go move that down. Now, one of the things you might find, if I just come around to the side here, move that along, is alignment, because this is obviously meant to kind of align with this going along. Now, probably one of the easiest way of doing this, because if you move this around, you'll see it kind of, you can't quite get it on track. One of the things you can do though is if I hold down Control and R, I could basically create a loop cut. So if I just press Control and R and then click on that and then move that down, it can be anywhere, say around about there, and then perhaps just move that down a wee bit more. Oh, we've got to the next stage. So this next stage is what I was going to come to later, but I'll come to it now, which is this problem, stretching. Okay, right, so I want to move that loop cut down there. Really simple fix to do that. I've put it in the slides anyway. So what we need to have a look at is if I click on that there on the little side bottom view, and what we want to find is, if I come down to options, is correct face attributes. Okay, make sure you've got that clicked when you get to the stage of moving the lines around, because once you've done that, then if you have a look on there, it allows me to kind of move it around. And then when you kind of finish, you can just click off and it'll just basically fix it. So I'm going to move that down to say around about there. I can just take it perhaps just off for now, but I can come back to that in a bit. And what that enables us to do, if I now just go into the face mode, is it'll allow me to kind of position this now on the side. So if I just zoom in there, let's get a better look at that. So you can see there we've got problems with the alignment of that line aligning with that. Whereas if I kind of mess around with this, I can actually bring it in place. But it keeps that other part of the UV in place. So if I now go and click on that, that remains intact. And of course, when it comes down to, if I go into object mode now, you can't tell. Yeah, it just all looks like it's kind of part of the same thing. So that's a little tip there. But yeah, that brought me on prematurely onto the thing with the preserving the UVs. All right, so let's have a look and just see what else we've got to do. So we've done that one side. Let's go and do the other side now. Just zoom out a little bit there. So again, making sure that you're in face mode. So let's go to tab and then 3 for face. And again, we've got that divided now. So I'm just going to go and select both of those. And then hit A over here. And then I'm going to move it over to in position to here. So in fact, actually, I beg your pardon, it's upside down. So I'm going to need to rotate that around. And then sort of position that accordingly. So let's just go and bring that down. And again, we need that bit to align. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go and go back to our friend in the little menu here. So if I go to and bring that out again, and what we want is correct faces there. And then what we're going to do is we're going to shift that. So I'm going to go and shift that. And if you look at it, how it corresponds, if I just go onto face mode there, you can see where that is there. What I need to do is select that as well, just so I can see where we are. And then what I'm going to need to do is somehow shift that. So if I go and select those now, move that down. So that's pretty much there, whilst kind of maintaining the bit at the top, which is what I want. Then we've got the bit at the bottom. And again, if you go and just examine it, if you go back into tab mode, that's all looking pretty good. All right. So we've got that sorted. The next bit we need to do is we just need to have a look at these. Not that necessarily we're going to see them, but the other side as well. So again, same thing as before. Just going to go and hit Tab key 3. Click on that there. Let's just move that out of the way a second. And we can just go and hit A and just move them anywhere. It doesn't really matter. So I can just maybe just rotate that to say there, G, and then move it. It's not really going to make much of a difference. Again, that's pretty much looking all right there. Now, if you are doing this and if you want to kind of paint on it afterwards, let's say, for example, you wanted to put it into Substance Painter and paint over the top, this is where you have got to be careful with your UVs. Because if you've got them overlapping, you can end up with basically painting over other parts of the model. So I'm just having a look on here. I can see that we've got a little bit of a gap going on there. There we go. Yeah, you just got to be sort of careful with things like that when you're like overlapping things. But for all intents and purposes, that's looking all right. And then just on the other side, this is just on the off chance if you've got this in a game engine and you're looking at, you happen to kind of peer around the side and it kind of looks a bit off, then you've got the opportunity of just kind of having a bit of a play around and make sure that it's not looking too iffy. All right, and then same with this. Hit A and G and just move that to say around about there. Cool, so we're ready for the next phase, which is basically we're going to start really modeling into this and making some loop cuts and actually extruding some of these things out. So that's the next stage. Okay, so once we've kind of got that sorted, we are ready to work on the face. So I'm going to basically go, and you can either go one or two ways. You can either use the Control and R, which will enable you to kind of create like a loop cut, but there also is the function here as well. If you go down the side there, you've got in the menu, if I just scroll down, you'll see there we've got loop cut, and you can select that and it'll actually put it in for you. It depends which way you want to work. I think I'm just going to press Control and R and just do it that way. So with that said, I'm just going to, just so I can get a clearer idea of what I'm doing, Control and R. Okay, so what you do with this is you've got Control and R, press at the same time, click on with your mouse, and then drag it up to where you want it to be. And you can always adjust this, of course, even if you don't get it there. You've got the move tool selected, so you can just move that into place like so. And then we do the same all over. So Control and R, make sure it's kind of like hovering over. And again, I'm going to sort of maybe put one there. Now, you have to stay within the lines. It won't allow you to kind of go over. So if you want to kind of put one at the bottom, which we will do, you'll need to be at the bottom when you're doing it. So I'll just put that one there. So if we want to kind of put one there, you have to make sure the cursor's there, and then Control and R, like so, and then you can sort of drag it down to the bottom. Again, that's just another little tip. And let's do the sides. Same on the other side. Now, technically, you could also use the knife tool for this, although you might have some problems with the like things like n-gons and things like that. You need sort of connecting lines of geometry, otherwise, it can throw up some problems. But doing it this way as well, I think it's just a lot neater. You get sort of straighter lines, but you can do that as well. If you do things like concepts, I think it'd be fine for that, really. So, all right. So let's have a look at this bit here. So if we go Control R, let's have a look at maybe creating one line there. One there. Okay, we'll just move that up to there. Control R. Oops, try that again. Control R. Move that down to there. Okay, and then we'll just do this bottom square as well. So we've got the outside, now let's do the inside now. So we need to take care of these inside faces. So you'll end up with this kind of lattice work of just lines, so don't worry about any of that. So again, Control and R. And then just going to do this bit of this label here as well. And this one too. And I think that might be it. Oh, we've got the padlock as well, so let's just do that. Okay, so I think that's pretty much done. So now we can begin the process of extruding these faces, I think. And I'm just going to do a double check and just make sure we've covered everything we need to cover. And I think that is pretty much it. I think one of the things we're going to need to put in, I'm just going to have a look at the edge here, because I think we're just missing the two edges here as well. I think they're kind of disappeared a little bit. So let's have a look at, I've got that one that side. Oh, I think we might be all right, actually. I've got one on the other side as well. No, I think that's okay. And yeah, I think we're pretty much good to go. One just tiny little adjustment, I think, though. I'll hold on Control and Shift and just have to do this all the way around. It's a little bit fiddly. I could just see like a little adjustment that needs making with the width. Again, I'm probably being a bit finicky and just want to get that totally correct before we go forward. I think that's got all of it. So yeah, so if you want to select all the lines, Shift and Control and then click. And I want to see if I can just bring that in a wee bit. I could see on the other side, just so it kind of matches the other side. And I think we're good to go. All right, so let's begin the process of extruding. So I'm going to, well, basically what we're going to do is going to bring this out. This is going to remain, so this part here, if I go to face, sorry, this part here is going to be the same as, say, that. And these parts here, and say this part here and all that, is going to extrude out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pretty much select the entire thing. Oops, let's try that again. Like so. And then I'm just going to use Control and click and just kind of, so it's better if we just go into orthographic view here. There we go. And let's see what we can do here. Something like that. And then I'm going to hold down Control and take some of these out as well, because this is the bit that we're going to be extruding. And we're going to be extruding these bits out as well, but I'll just take care of the face for now. So Control and just click on that. And then I think we come to this part here. Something like that, and then something like that, and then we'll take that out there, and then that out there, and I think that's pretty much got it. And then we've got the bits at the side as well. So let's have a look at those, and all we need to do is just holding down Shift, we'll just sort of select those parts as well. Covers all that. But I think, and just make sure also that you're not catching any other edges as well. That's something just to be aware of. All right, and then once you've done that, so what we're going to be doing is we're going to be, if I hit Alt and just click over that way, so what we're going to be doing is we're going to be extruding this way on the Y-axis. So what we're going to do is, not a lot either, so it's just going to be E and Y. Oh, let's try that again. It's got a little bit too far. Actually, we could probably just take it back, to be honest. Let's see if we can just take it back. There we go. So E and then Y, but we only want it just to be partially kind of going forward, say something like that. And then once you're ready, you can kind of just click off. And then if I just go back into object mode now, you can see there now it's got a nice little kind of bit of 3D on there. And then we could do a similar thing with the signs as well. So just go and highlight them, and holding down Shift and highlight that as well. There's some just additional bits here. I didn't actually put anything in for these. I mean, you could tweak it a little bit. I could even drop another line in there as well, another loop cut. So if I hold down Control and R, just 1, 2 there, say, and then hit 3, and then just go and select all of that. Again, I mean, you could take a bit more time with it. And then Shift and then select all that as well. And then similar thing as before, you can go E and then Y, say something like that, and then just going to hit Tab key for the thingy, and that's all looking pretty good. We've got the padlock as well, so we could have a go at that. Hit the Tab key, and let's see about maybe extruding this out. Again, this is like, this wouldn't be for like high detail. This is like a background thing, because obviously things like the padlock, you probably want to model that for sure. If this was like a hero piece or something like that, you probably would want to kind of put more detail in there. So it's E and then Y. Maybe bring that out a wee bit. And we've got some funny things kind of going on here, so maybe we could even just take some of these back a little bit. Again, just kind of have a tweak with some of it. Something like that. But I think it's just an approximation as much as anything else. All right. Now, what you may also find is, on this occasion, it looks all right because I think we've got, if my memory serves me correct, we've got correct faces that's still selected, which means we've not got any like hideous kind of stretching kind of going on, which can happen. If you do end up with any kind of stretching, what you can do is, of course, you can go and select those faces. Say, for example, if I were to say, let me just move that back out. So you can see there, it's like if I zoom in, it's very, very narrow what I'm selecting. So at the moment, though, it's kind of like we're kind of getting away with it because of the nature of it. But if you wanted to get rid of the stretching, there's a really simple solution. And all you'd need to do is essentially this. If I just go and deselect that, just as an example, I'm not necessarily going to do it, you know, for everything, but just as an example, you go and select those faces like it is there. It looks like it's done the entire thing. Let's try that again. Let's say something like that. And then what you do is, same thing again, you go U, and then go, say, Smart UV Project, click OK. And you'll see there now it's done the entire thing. And all you'd need to do there is just scale it down. Whoops, scale it down, he says. Say something like that, and just overlay it somewhere on the image, and you'd see that basically it stops stretching. Obviously, it's got to be in proportion and scale to what you're doing. Say, for example, you're making a wall or doing something with bricks. You can see there actually there is a bit of a horrible bit of stretching going on there. I might be inclined just to sort of take care of that. Again, just kind of hit U, Smart UV Project, click OK, and then just scale these down. And you can just put these literally just anywhere. If you're not going to be pasting over the top, you can put it anywhere really, and it won't show up. So there we go, something like that. So you may recall from the intro, we've also got a couple of other things to do. Now, you could, one of the things I've not demoed here is doing things like beveling. Again, it's going to take a bit too much time, and I'm not going to do it for this video. But essentially what you could do is, if I hit 2, you could essentially go around and hold down Shift and Control, and actually, well, not like that, but if you could select one edge and then Shift and Control and then click down one edge and basically work your way around like so. Go all the way around like that. I think that's the last one there. And then what you can do here is go through to where it says Bevel and create like a bevel on it. And that can be quite handy for things like if you want to kind of just give it a bit more realism. And you could even, if you wanted to, with bevel still selected, you'll see there's a little box at the bottom here. You can also add segments. So you could actually make it more curved. Can you see that? And you could do a whole bunch of other things as well. You can kind of play around like with the width of it. And I mean, I wouldn't probably recommend doing this per se, because I think it could just throw up more problems for you in terms of like with the image. But if you want to kind of just add a little bit of a you know, some curves to it and things like that, you can do that as well if you want. Doesn't matter if not. And that's pretty much it for that. So yeah, a couple other things. One is the we've got this thing on a pole. Now at this stage, you probably don't need, if I just go and hit Tab key now, probably don't need any of the references. We've got those now, but we do have this pole, like telegraph pole. So let's have a look at creating a telegraph pole to put this on. So I'm going to hit Shift and A, Mesh, and let's go and create a cylinder. Okay. And scale-wise, that looks almost there, really. So what I'll do is I'll just go to that and maybe just scale it up. Might need to scale it down a wee bit, who knows. So again, this is just really for the purposes of just attaching it to something. Might just perhaps just scale this down a wee, just a tiny little bit, something like that. And what we can do is we can basically put this in place, position it, and then move that to say there. So it's going to kind of intersect with that box a little bit. And so you do the same as before. You could go shade smooth on that. That's kind of looking all right. I might just put a a little loop cut in there. So I'm going to go Control and R. Let's just put a loop cut in there. Let's go to the Move tool. Let's get rid of that. Let's go back. Move tool. So whenever you use things like Shade Smooth, it'll smooth everything. So if you haven't got a loop cut in there, a bit like with Maya, it'll just basically soften the edges and stuff like that. Now this bottom end, I mean, it's a bit, you know, overkill, but we don't really need this bit at the bottom. But anyway, I'll just put that there. Now if we hit the Tab key and then go to right click and then go Shade Smooth, it's still warping it a little bit, but anyway, you get the general idea. It's kind of got most of it. Anyway, all right, so we've got that there. Let's go and apply our texture. So we need to unwrap it first. So I'm going to go through to the Tab key, hit A to select everything, and then we can go U and Smart UV Project and click OK. Now, if I zoom in there, now you can see it's basically split off the ends and it's got that on the top. Because this isn't going to have a lot of detail, what I might be sort of tempted to do is I might just go and select that one. I'm going to hit L, which kind of, if it lets me do it, not going to let me do it. L, there we go. I can scale this down because the ends aren't really that important. So we're going to minimize that. Scale it down. Similar thing with this. L, and then S to scale it down. And it's going to have a play around with these, because at the moment it's split the texture up into two. So if it lets me, what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit 2, and then I'm going to press Alt and V and see if I can connect this up. So once it does that, you've got these green lines, and then just go and hit Enter. It looks like it's done that there. And let's see if we can do the same thing. This can be a little bit hit and miss. So Alt and V, hit Enter. Let's have a look. Alt and V, Enter. Looks like it's done it. There we go. So it's unwrapped the entire thing. It's basically just joins all the vertexes and the edges together. All right. So we've got that there, and I'm going to go and hit L to select them all. Now I'm going to have to. I am going to have to kind of scale this down a wee bit, and maybe rotate it. Let's try that again. There we go, something like that. Scale that down a wee bit, just so it fits in the space. Hit G. Now what we want is we want to lay our image on there now and just see what it looks like. So for that, I'm going to go hit the Tab key. I'm going to go to the Materials, go New. So same as before. Click on where it says Base Color, the little yellow dot. Click on that. Image Texture, and then open up the little folder. Go and find our little folder here, and then it's the wood that we want there. Now again, I just dragged this off the internet. You could take your time, Photoshop it a bit more, make it look a bit more presentable. I'm going to click Open. So it's, if I just go and hit Tab key now, you can see there, if I zoom out, it's a little bit messy, but I can manipulate this just so it goes on the image. So we can go S, scale this down. Now I want to make sure also that the grain's going the right way. That's another thing as well. So I think that kind of looks like it's going the right way. Let's go and test this theory out. If I go and say select, go to 3 and select one of the faces. So that's going down that way. So that kind of looks like it's going the right way. I think. Let's go and hit A. Yes and no. I think it looks like it's kind of cutting across, if I'm not mistaken. Or is it? Let's go and have a look at. Select another one, another one, another one. So it looks like, yeah, they're kind of going down that way. So if I go and hit A. So what I'm going to do here is, it looks like it's going all right. I need to basically just use the scale tool and just expand that out as much as possible. Hit G. And let's move that accordingly. Now the ends, as I said before, the ends aren't massively important, so I'm going to hit S for scale and G to just kind of put that in place. And then we can just L, S, scale that down. And again, you can take time on this and get it, get the proportions right. But if I hit the tab key now, that all looks like it's kind of going in the right direction. Cool. So we're almost there. Just a couple of final little, or a few final things to kind of do in terms of like, you know, finessing it a little bit. So that's all looking all right. Generally speaking, it's looking good. You know, we've kind of got the, if I just go back into the modeling view now, or layout, there we go. So it's looking good. There's a bit of, perhaps a bit of tweaking I can see that perhaps needs to kind of go on, like here, you know, there's something a little bit funny kind of going on there. Again, we could sort of maybe go back into the UV editing. Let's have a look. This could be just to do with the image, but it looks like it might be, if I go into, say, the wireframe, or let's just go back to layout, there we go, and go into wireframe mode. I think something funny happened along the way, so I'm going to go and hit the tab key and then hit 1, and maybe just I'll click on X-ray mode. Let's try that again, and then sort of move these into place. It probably just accidentally got moved as I was kind of modeling, so I'm just going to go and tweak that like so. And again, you can sort of finesse this at your leisure. All right, and then come out of X-ray mode. Let's just go back into the solid mode. So that's looking all right. Again, I could sort of tweak that a little bit more. It's not a problem. Right, so let's just go back to that view there. So we've pretty much, you know, got all that sorted, but it is looking a bit flat. And also we need to have a look at lighting. So this is going to be the next stage. So once we've kind of got that sorted, we're going to give this a bit of a bump, and also give the post a bit of a bump, because it's a little bit flat, and we need to kind of bring it to life a little bit more. Now it's really easy to do. All we need to do is I'm going to need to go into the shading editor and use the same texture to create a bump for this. So let's start with this. And let's go through to shading. You can see there now we've got the little nodes, and it's basically sort of showing us the model there. And if I just move that up a wee bit and zoom in, so basically we've got our image going down into our principal shader there, and then we've got the material output and all these things you can kind of play around with, metallic and roughness and things like that. But what we want to do here is we want to basically not necessarily create a normal, but create what's called like a little bump map, and then connect it up to the normal, just so we can kind of create like almost like kind of 3D textured kind of like effect. So I'm going to go and select our image, Shift and D, and bring that down. And now what we're going to do is press Control, Shift and A, and then in the search bar we're going to type in bump, and you'll see it there. I've got caps lock on, but anyway, there's bump. And then all we need to do is connect up the color to the height, not the normal, but the height, and then from the normal to the normal, and you should see it change. Now it looks a bit hideous, it doesn't look very nice, and also it's showing up, you can see there now, it's showing up the stretching. This is where, you know, I was saying before, you need to kind of have it so you haven't kind of got any stretching going on or anything like that. You can see there, I think this is where we adjusted it. Remember, near the lock, that's where we haven't got any stretching. But anyway, I digress. Let's change this though, because it looks a bit hideous, and also it's kind of going in, and we want it to kind of come out. So first things first, let's go invert. So if I just zoom in there, click invert, now it's kind of coming out. And then let's just take the strength down. Let's just go, let's just take it way down, almost back to basics. And then if I just zoom in now, and let's just take it back up again. All we want is just a little bit of an intimation. Nothing wild. Just an intimation that there's like a bit of a bump there. See that? It'll show more up when we're actually lighting this thing up. But that's pretty much how we want it. We can always come back and adjust it, but that's kind of looking, from my end, that's kind of looking all right. So that's okay for that. Now let's do a similar thing with the pole. So if I go and click on that now, and just zoom out, you'll see there. So we've got our wood texture going into the principal shader, which is going to the material output. Same thing again. I'm going to go select that, Shift D, copy that. Same thing as before. Click and go Shift and A, go to search and type in bump. There it is. And select that. And then like before, all we need to do is connect up the color to the height, and then the height to the normal. And then just like before, we just need to play around with the strength because we don't want it to be too much. Something like that is fine. So very, that's what's that, 0.392. Very kind of subtle. All right, let's go back to the layout, and you can see there now it's got a lot more kind of realism. Now it's still not quite there. This is where we're going to sort of wrap things up. We've got a bit of lighting to do. So I'm going to go into the viewport shading here where you can actually put some lights in. At the moment we don't have any lights in there. So let's go and press Shift and A and go through to light and point light. I quite like point lights. And then bring that up like so. Now at the moment it's quite weak. It's only about 10 watts. So let's take that up to say, oh, I don't know, say 500. Oh, that is a bit zingy, isn't it? Perhaps down to say 200. Yeah, that's a bit better. And you should be able to see there now. It's looking pretty good. Can you see that? I've actually even got a bit like even the graffiti's got a bit of a bump on it. Now we can actually go one step further as well to really show this up. Click on the model and then go down to the materials, and let's give this a bit of a metallic finish. So let's have a look and let's bump up a little bit of the metallic. Let's just zoom in just so I can actually see what's going on. So let's just create a bit of metallic. Not too much. And also let's play around with the roughness a little bit. Let's take that roughness down, just not too much, just so it looks a bit like blobby paint. And you can see there now. That's pretty cool, huh? Let's get a light on the side as well. Shift and D, let's bring a light around the side. If you want, you could play around with the lights as well, and maybe even take the strength of it down, because you don't want it really to be competing with that. So let's take it down to about 100. And also let's make this a little bit more yellowy, something like that. But you can see that now. Now we've got the lights on it, and now we've played around with a bit of metallic and a bit of the roughness. What you can do with the modeling, and this isn't, you know, we've not even taken this into Substance Painter. So you pretty much got like a game ready kind of asset that you could export and then put into, you know, something like Unreal Engine. And it's pretty much good to go, really. You know, you kind of got that there. Like I say, as a kind of hero piece, you could, you know, it'd stand like a bit of scrutiny, but I think when you kind of go, when you zoom in, none of this makes sense. That's supposed to be a padlock, you know. So if this was like a hero piece, you'd pretty much want to put like, you know, do a bit of sort of, you know, modeling on there. But using this kind of principle, you know, with the, you know, playing around with the image and also playing around with things like bump and things like that, you can create game assets in a you know, relatively short space of time. And as I mentioned at the beginning of the video as well, there are other things you can do with this. You can actually just as a concept, blue sky level, you could sort of take something like this, you know, and let's say just copy it. And you could even just do things like, you know, make, I don't know, you know, make an environment out of it. You know, you could play around with, you know, things like, what is it, the array tool, you know, if we just go through to the modifiers and go to array, wherever it is, where are you, array, there we go. You know, you could even just do things like that, where you could just think about, you know, creating some kind of like, you know, corridor or something. I don't know, you know, do something with it. I just have a bit of fun with it. But you've already kind of made the thing itself. So all you'd need to do is really then just kind of play around and just see what you can do with it, and just mainly just have a bit of fun, and you know, see where you can kind of go with it. other than that, folks, that's pretty much it. So hopefully this has been insightful for you. It's given you some ideas about what you can do in terms of creating environments or even assets for your games, or even for doing concepts and stuff like that. But that's it. So I hope you enjoyed watching it, and yeah, look forward to seeing you next time. Okay, that's it, folks. Bye for now.